Page 117. Lesson 21. Reading. This is a picture of a man, Mr. Ken, and a woman, Mrs. Ken. Mr. Ken is the husband of Mrs. Ken. Who is the husband of Mrs. Ken? Mr. Ken is the husband of Mrs. Ken. Mrs. Ken is the wife of Mr. Ken. Who is the wife of Mr. Ken? Mrs. Ken is the wife of Mr. Ken. Page 118. This is a picture of a boy, Tom, and a girl, Joy. Tom is the brother of Joy. Who is the brother of Joy? Tom is the brother of Joy. Joy is the sister of Tom. Who is the sister of Tom? Joy is the sister of Tom. Mr. Ken is the father of Tom and Joy. Who is the father of Tom and Joy? Mr. Ken is the father of Tom and Joy. Mrs. Ken is the mother of Tom and Joy. Who is the mother of Tom and Joy? Mrs. Ken is the mother of Tom and Joy. Tom is the son of Mr. and Mrs. Ken. Who is the son of Mr. and Mrs. Ken? Tom is the son of Mr. and Mrs. Ken. Joy is the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Ken. Who is the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Ken? Joy is the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Ken. Mr. and Mrs. Ken are the parents of Tom and Joy. Who are the parents of Tom and Joy? Mr. and Mrs. Ken are the parents of Tom and Joy. Tom and Joy are the children of Mr. and Mrs. Ken. Who are the children of Mr. and Mrs. Ken? Tom and Joy are the children of Mr. and Mrs. Ken. Page 119. This is a picture of Jack and Jill. Jack is the brother of Mr. Ken. He is also the brother of Jill. Jill is the sister of Mr. Ken. She is also the sister of Jack. Jack is the uncle of Tom. Tom is the nephew of Jack. Jack is also the uncle of Joy. Jill is the aunt of Joy. Joy is the niece of Jill. She is also the niece of Jack. Are you Mr. Ken? Yes, I am Mr. Ken. Is he Mr. Ken? Yes, he is Mr. Ken. Are you Mrs. Ken? Yes, I am Mrs. Ken. Is she Mrs. Ken? Yes, she is Mrs. Ken. Are you Mr. and Mrs. Ken? Yes, we are Mr. and Mrs. Ken. Are they Mr. and Mrs. Ken? Yes, they are Mr. and Mrs. Ken. This is a picture of a dog. Is it a dog? Yes, it is a dog. Is it a cat? No, it is not a cat. It is a dog. Page 120. This is a picture of a baby. Is it a baby? Yes, it is a baby. Is it a cat? No, it is not a cat. It is a baby. Questions and answers. Are you a teacher? Yes, I am a teacher. Are you a teacher? No, I am not a teacher. What are you? I am a teacher. Are you a student? Yes, I am a student. Are you a student? No, I am not a student. What are you? I am a student. Are you a waiter? Yes, I am a waiter.